Now, congratulations for this new book in Romanian, What Not to Do If You Turn Invisible. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I wouldn't. I'm not going to try to say the title in Romanian. I don't. I think it's beyond me. Oh,
faci când devii invizibil. Romanian is complicated.
You're much better at it than me. Yeah, I'll leave it to you. It's a long title as well.
I had a British teacher at some point who used to say speaking Romanian is like being punched in the stomach. So.
Oh. I don't know. Okay, I don't know about that, but I'll leave the Romanian up to you.
So my first question to you would be, how hard is it to write for such a demanding audience as teenagers are?
Well, that's a good question, Joanna. I think it's very hard, but I think writing for any audience is hard. I try not to think too much about it. I try to just get the story right and hope. That's all I can do. I seldom, when I'm writing, I seldom change the language very much. It's only when I edit that I go through and think, would a kid know that word, you know, or because my books are in the first person, they're written in the first person. I think I have to think: is it plausible that a child would actually say that?
Yes, because you have to get inside the child's voice.
Yes, exactly, and of course, no child really speaks in those complicated, colourful sentences and everything. They don't. But you have to. The challenge is to stop the reader from going, that's just implausible. You know, nobody would really think or speak like that. So that's the challenge.
No, I actually went through your list of favorite things on your website, and the one that really caught my attention was magic tricks. Could you enlarge on that?
Oh yeah. Oh man. The reason I look around is I'll just show you. Here's my workstation, and I have cards, everything, you know, little bits and pieces. I have this knife that I found the other day, and oh look, and I'm just forever playing with things at my desk, and yeah, here's a book that I was reading. It's got a great title: Life, Death, and Other Card Tricks. So this sort of stuff is always around me, and when I'm not writing, I reach out and I fiddle with something, and all of, when I appear, when I do school appearances, you know, to schools and festivals and stuff, I always put in some magic into the presentation. So
it sounds amazing. Yeah,
it's been a hobby of mine for years, you know.
It's a great hobby.
Yeah.
Coming to your latest book in Romanian, this metaphor of visibility, I think, speaks to every teenager on the planet, because they all feel invisible at some point. Yet there are many other issues in your book. There's bullying, there's peer pressure, there's absent parents, addictions, and so on. Was it hard?
Throw it all in there, yeah.
But was it hard to tailor all that material into one novel?
It's always hard, Joanna, but I think what I tend to find is it happens naturally. It comes out when I'm writing. So somebody will say something, and I realise, they'll say something, and that sounds ridiculous, as if I haven't just made them say it. But when a story is living and being created, very often I do find that the characters tend to take things in their own direction. And so, they will say something, and I'll think, that's interesting, you know, and I'll run with it, or it might be that's usually how it happens. Sometimes it's a little bit more mechanical, in that I'll read a passage, and this is often in editing. I'll read a passage and I'll say, that character, why does he or she behave in that way? Or that character seems a bit bland, a bit vanilla. I think maybe they need a little bit of backstory, and I might have to add it in. But usually usually it's more organic, and I find that that it happens without me having to devise it, without me having to create it. I mean, I think if you're thinking of well, if you're thinking of Boydie in What Not to Do If You Turn Invisible, I had to come up with a reason. I had to come up with a reason why Boydie's mum and dad weren't really involved in the story. It's one of the, I think it's one of the perennial problems of writing children's books, and writing when the children are leading the story, is that the reader, I think, wants to know, well, where are the parents in all of this? You know, I mean, Enid Blyton, in the past, she had the great idea. She would send the famous five, send them off on a camping holiday. You know, that would be great, or something. Or they would all row out to a deserted island or something, and they didn't have mobile phones. And back in the 1940s and stuff, and so kids in those stories could do that. But if you're writing about children in a contemporary world, well, they all have their parents around. They all live in streets like us, and they all have phones, and so there needs to be a reason that the big problem is there needs to be a reason why when a character gets into trouble, they can't just immediately, Mom, Dad, come and get me, you know, which is what would really happen. You know, these days, that's what happens. So yeah, if you have to kind of find creative ways to make sure that parents can't always do that. And one way, in Boydie's case, in the book, is you get his dad out of the way.
The book is absolutely hilarious, and you just jump from one comic situation to the next, and I think you totally laugh as a kid. You definitely laugh as an adult. And I was wondering whether this is a must ingredient. So in order to tackle these serious issues that you tackle, you absolutely need humor in the architecture.
I do personally. I mean, there are a lot of children's books that don't have much humor in, that are wonderful. But that's just something that I like to do, you know. Yeah, I usually have one or two characters. There'll usually be one funny character in the book. It might be a kid, it might be one of the adults or something. But these are the characters that get all of the good lines. You know, it's and it's very often the secondary character. It usually isn't the lead who's the funny one. It's
but this one was democratic. I mean, there was a democracy in this book.
Yeah,
I think they all have funny lines. Yeah.
But it's a bit like a comedy double act. You know, there's usually one guy who's a bit straight, and the other guy next to him who's doing all of the funny stuff. And so that tends to be what happens with me. There'll be the funny character, and I'll think up funny lines, or I'll hear something, and I'll try and remember. Sometimes even write it down. Oh, that's a funny line. And I shamelessly steal jokes from TV and from other people, and always, by the time it gets published, the joke has changed and it's unrecognizable. Otherwise, I would feel a bit bad.
Which character was the most challenging for you as an author in this book?
I think, strangely, it was Ethel herself. It's because she's the lead character, and it's always difficult to get the lead character dead right. and she had a complicated story. And because the lead character carries the story, you have to make sure that the readers are always comfortable with her voice and everything. You have to like her. That's why sometimes I think my lead characters are not the most exciting. You know, they'll have the most exciting stuff happen to them, okay, but they have to be kind of level in order to carry the story on. And getting Ethel right was the challenge. I loved her in the end. I thought she was adventurous and always warm-hearted, but she had a complicated upbringing, a complicated life, and she lives with her very straight grandmother, and that's a challenge for any child. So I loved seeing Ethel come together on the page, because in the end we end up really loving her and really empathizing with her problem. But that did take a while to get right.
It's very enjoyable for the reader, and even though you write about common problems of children and teenagers, as we've said before, you keep away from cliches, and your style is extremely refreshing and very enjoyable. Now, how is your writing routine?
I don't really have a daily routine. I have a routine that follows the publication over a year. It's a month by month routine more than a daily one. Right now, what are we now? Well, it's now September the 30th when I'm talking to you, and I'm in a slightly quieter period, where it means I can do stuff like this. I'm off to Sweden today to visit some schools in Sweden. So at the moment, my timetable is a little bit more relaxed. Later today, I will receive from my editor the next draft of the book that's coming out in January 2021, which will be my... Thank you. And that book is going okay. So I don't expect that'll be a massive rewrite, although, you know, you can never be certain. And so I'm just going to adjust this a little bit because I'm leaning a bit too much. And then round about next month or the month after, leading up to Christmas, I will start writing a new one. And then that gets harder and harder and harder and harder. By about April or May, I'm mad. I'm absolutely crazy. And I can't talk to anybody. I can't go out. I can't do anything. And then I finish the first draft in July. And then the editing process starts, and then we're back into another year. So that's how it works over a year.
It's quite a journey.
It's a proper timetable. But as for a daily routine, I really don't have one. I'm always suspicious of people who must do a particular thing at a particular time. You know, I have to have my lucky mug, or I must write with my lucky pencil or something. Because I think, what if you break your mug? You know, or what if you go on holiday and you forget your pencil? Oh, you got it. Yeah. So I try not to do that. The only thing that works is to sit here and look there, you know, and do that, and just keep doing that. That's the only thing that works. Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me that in what not to do if you turn invisible, invisibility is sort of a character in itself. The twins, the evil twins, are invisible to their parents too. And Ethel's mother is sort of invisible because she hides her scars underneath all that makeup. So was it a point you were trying to make, that we actually all have scars and hidden, you know, spaces within us, and we're all invisible in some sense and trying to hide underneath our masks?
That is lovely, Joanna. But In truth, no. I have to say no, I wasn't. I love the fact that people have said this to me before, and I love the fact that people take that from the story. But those sort of levels and those sort of meanings were never overt when I was writing it. They came out when I was often I spotted them in editing, or even after the book is published. I go, oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. And I could pretend. I could say, yes, that's exactly what I meant, and I intended to write. No, again, it was more of an organic process that I wanted to write a book about. I wanted to write a book about a kid becoming invisible. That's all. And it was only during the writing that extra meanings and extra layers came into it. But they were not intentional from the start. Sorry.
And one last question.
Yeah.
If you were invisible for a day, the way Ethel is, how would you spend your day?
How do you know what? I've often thought about this. I think I would like to, at the moment, I would like to have a seat, an invisible seat, in our government during our government's meetings about how to handle this pandemic, because I really don't think it's going very well, and I'd love to know how they come up with their apparently crazy decisions. I really don't understand that, and I don't think we ever will unless I could become invisible. But other than that, I think it would be, other than spying on people and spying on the people who are in charge of stuff, I'm not sure it would be very much fun. I think it would be fun for about 20 minutes. You know, once I've scared my wife, and let her boo, and things like that, I think it would get a bit tiresome, and I think I would end up a bit like Ethel in the book, finding out that being invisible is quite a challenge. It's funny when I go to schools and I talk about the book. I always say to the kids, so who thinks it would be fun to be invisible? And all of yeah, it would be great. I go, okay, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do? It's always, I would prank my little sister. I'd scare my little sister. Great, okay. And then inevitably, somebody says, I would go into a sweet shop and I would eat all of the sweets. And I would steal all of the sweets. And I take with me, hang on one second, I always take with me a prop, because I know somebody's gonna say this. And so I have this little bit where I do, okay, so you've got your chocolate bar. What's going to happen in the shop? The chocolate bar is going to float. And the kids go, oh yeah, if you're stealing chocolate, all it's going, and people are going to scream and be scared, and you're going to be found out and everything. And so it's leading the audience to realize that it's not as simple as you might think, So yeah, spying on government and 20 minutes of fun, and I think that's it.
Well, thank you so much for a great read and a wonderful conversation. Hope to see you.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
Good luck with Elephant Fest. Have I said that right? Yeah, Elephant Fest. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be part of it. So thank you very, very much. And big up to Corint Jr. for publishing my books. It's I'm really pleased to be to have a presence in Romania. I love it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
All right. Bye-bye.